Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Did you know the Fender Custom Shop has an Instagram page? If you didn't, they post a whole bunch of cool stuff, so I thought we would check some of these beasts out today. Starting with the one that first inspired this episode, look at this Telecaster. Or I suppose more accurately described as an Esquire. Now, I'm not normally for the artsy-fartsy guitars, but this thing just struck me. It's great. I love it. They were going for this whole stained glass look, and between like the sun right here and all the other like leaf-like designs and the bright, vibrant colors, the Tele body shape really pulls it off great. But at the same time, he was trying to make it look slightly vintage. Because if you look around the edges, it's essentially wooden binding at this point because the glass takes up the top. But it has a pretty cool weathered look to it. I'm guessing it's probably an ash body with all that wood grain. But they did go as far as actually lighting this thing up from the back. Unfortunately, I could not find any photos of the back of this thing. All the photos I can find online only show the top. So this would look pretty sweet on stage, but if you're in the same thinking pattern that I was, doesn't that make this the world's most fragile guitar? If this was made with real stained glass, yes, that would be true, but this is plexiglass. And they probably did that for a reason. It's more stronger and shatter resistant and will just generally hold up better over time, which is exactly what you want on an art guitar like this. Can you imagine if Fender shipped this thing out and it arrives to the dealer with like broken glass if they would have used traditional glasses? Because look, we even have abalone inlays to kind of match this. Or maybe they made those out of plexiglass too, because those look larger than normal. But apparently this was on display at a NAMM show about 6 or 7 years ago. There's actually a video on Fender's page, all the way back from 2016, talking about the years-long process of making that. So where's this one today? I don't really know, but I'm sure it's making some collector happy. And next up, let's take a look at the Big Mac Daddy. It was about 2 or 3 years ago when I saw my first double neck Fender guitar. I mean, look at those things. They're pretty crazy, right? But you know what I thought when I saw that? 2 is not enough. How about 9? And that's exactly what Fender has done here. A 9-necked guitar. There was a comment saying Rick Nielsen is sitting up in bed and he doesn't quite know why. I thought was quite funny. But no, this was a Paul Waller creation. Essentially what he did was he took the 9 most popular pre-CBS Fender models and put them into one. They only asked themselves if they could do this, not if they should. And they even had the audacity to actually put Strat buttons on this thing. Like some giant will actually play this thing one day. Maybe we need to get Steve Vai on the phone. So let's see if we can name all these things. We've got a Mustang right here with our switches. Looks like a traditional Jaguar. We've got a Telecaster with Jag switches. We've got a Stratocaster mix in here. We've got the Jazzmaster in this portion. Still has its little switchers right there and some additional ones right here. We've got a P bass and we've got a J bass, but what about this guy and this weird thing? All right, so this is a Fender Bass 6. So that's going to have the extended scale length. I mean, you can kind of see it right here because this neck ends right here and starts right there, which is significantly longer than this Jazzmaster. Well, that's actually a really good comparison to a bass scale length because you can see just how much longer that is. Then up here, we have one of those cute little mandolins. So how do I feel about this monstrosity? It's cool in like a display way in order to show what they are capable of doing. I'd be really curious to know how many pieces are in this body. Like, please tell me they did not cut this out of just one piece. Because when you have a body this big, if you have like some warping or anything, you'll actually be able to notice it. But what's devastatingly fascinating is the fact that we have all the different trem systems on here too, from Stratocaster to Jazz and Jag style. But the whole gold finish really ties this whole thing together. But Mr. Hamburg over here is definitely right. You're gonna have to take a week off to change all the strings. So let's think about that. Just to change the strings, you're looking at, what, probably about 3 minutes per neck, some maybe a little bit more, some a little bit less. And that's if you're going pretty speedily. And you're gonna get fatigued and frustrated, so it's probably going to be at least an hour to change all these strings. Then you have to intonate each and every single one of them, clean and polish the fretboard. It wouldn't make sense to gig this outside of the shock factor. I mean, you might play 1 or 2 necks. You don't have to worry about all the other ones being in tune. But you would definitely need this custom stand because that would be heavy. I mean, even though you're kind of mashing all these bodies together, you could probably say at least 6 pounds for each instrument style. So about 50 pounds, and trying to get to all the necks would be quite a sight. But something I really wish they would have done is put an ebony fretboard on something, because they've got their maples, they've got their rosewoods. Capture the other big fretboard name in here, even though it's not necessarily traditional on these guitars. And I guess my one last complaint here is you kind of lose some of the original body shapes on here just by the way that they had to blend them together. And I'm curious, like Mr. Santiago here, does it come with a case? And how much would this even be? I'm not sure if Fender actually sold this thing or not. Someone was saying that they saw it at a NAMM show at one point in time. But let's calm things down here with these Robin Egg Blue Stratocasters. They're 1960 reissues. I just thought they were quite attractive. I love the silver anodized pickguard. It just looks right with this finish. It's kind of like a metallic blue. I was digging these a lot more before I knew that they had kind of faux aged them. But I like this one because it kind of reminds me of the whole Robin Egg thing, because it's slightly egg shaped right there and you get like a light shine effect from the worn through lacquer. That's a beautiful pair. And just look how ridiculously shiny those frets are. Wouldn't surprise me if they were stainless steel. I would love to see this combination come to the US offerings. Next up, we have a set from Ron Thorne. He calls these the La Palomas. I would like to try one of these. It's kind of like the Troublemaker Teles, but just a little bit different and a little bit more extreme. These guys, they've got the carved tops to them, but yet they're wrap tails, so it's more like a Les Paul special in that aspect. But instead, we have humbuckers this time. So it looks like potentially 2 volumes and a tone, unless he's done something really crazy here. But it works with the sunburst finish, and it works with the natural. I would say I prefer the flame figuring that's on the sunburst on this one, but imagine if that was like a little bit more of a faded color. Those are the bursts I tend to like. Maybe next time he could go as far as like actually doing a teardrop shape on one. No, that'd be so wrong. But ooh, it actually appears these things are aged, and that wrap tail piece is slightly intonatable. That's an interesting design. It's kind of like the barrel saddles that you find on some Telecasters, but just built into a wrap tail piece. Ah, sweet, and they're also set neck. Always gotta love set neck Fenders. They don't belong in that family, but they're cool. And they put the name of the thing up there. Next up, another one from Paul Waller. This is a double-bound 60s custom Telecaster. Basically, I just thought it looked extra sleek with the cover on the bridge and the jet black finish. Very dark fretboard. Looks like maybe even abalone inlays. But then the neck is so out of place on this thing. It appears it's got some flame. It's just hard to see in that photo. So maybe it looks better in person. That's one sleek-looking Tele. And hey, what's in the background here? If you thought the Palomas were interesting, here's another one from Ron to celebrate 1 million followers on their Instagram page here. He calls it the California Special. It's kind of like a blending of a lot of different Fender models. Like you have a little bit of Stratocaster right here just on the horn, not necessarily where it meets the body. Then you kind of get like Jaguar Mustang type vibes right here. Kind of get a J-bass vibe right here. I think maybe like a Music Master has something similar to that. I'm not sure. But then we have like Fender lead elements here with these slanted pickups. This one looks like it has 3, but those 2 could be like wired together for like a humbucker-esque tone. But it's got his same bridge here and then kind of a shortened trem system on it. And I love that black competition stripe. Now the block inlays, I don't know if they work on that or not. They're very large and in your face. I think that would go better with like a blue finish. Since this is a gold color and the headstock kind of matches it, I think a maple fretboard with like the black pearl inlays would have looked sweet, but I know he's made a few of these. And then apparently Fender partnered with Hot Wheels, which when you first hear that you think, what? Why? But, you know, Fender and car culture, it goes together. These are miniature collectible cars that kids like to play with and adults like to collect. Okay, I guess it kind of makes sense, but this one's all chrome blinged out. That's extra shiny. Tommy Thayer's been sporting something very similar, with a completely mirrored chromed out Les Paul Standard. That thing is cool. I've been getting a lot of people sending me this thing, thinking it might be his new signature model. I just don't see it. It would be fun in a super limited edition way, but I think that's just a custom order for him for stage use, because that would probably have a limited audience. I don't know if I could review that. It would just have too many fingerprints. It'd be too hard to show you guys. It really just needs a straight up metal fretboard. But continuing on with the Hot Wheels celebration, look at this thing, a custom shop Katana. Now we talked about the Katana bass and some of the Katana history in this episode, but to have a custom shop version of one of these 80s weird guitars just makes me happy. I mean, it's got the giant Hot Wheels logo on it, a big 8. Looks like just a single bridge humbucker, but it's like a sparkle black finish right here. You got a little bit of yellow and some white. And I love the headstock on this one. They color coordinated it as well. We've got the vintage style tuners, a little bit of blue, you've got some yellow. Flipping over to the back, it's a lot of the same. But why did they not show us a photo of the whole neck? That is ridiculous to have a Katana with that seriously flamed neck. That's a fun one. Next, we need to talk about the Acoustasonic series. You can check out these videos if you need to learn more about them. It's kind of a love it or leave it type thing. I think they're great guitars. I always enjoy when I review one, even though it is kind of hard to demonstrate every single sound and effect. I do my best. But this time they made a custom shop version that has like an old school pick guard on it. They relicked it up and it has a cool like old country western vibe to it. But if you thought those other La Palomas were cool, check out this one. Brazilian rosewood fretboard. And even though they're not telling me, that looks like maybe a Carina body. I think I remember those things existing. Whatever it is, it's a nice light color. That just really reminds me of like a TV yellow Les Paul special. And I think that's what he was kind of going for here. I would like to see one just fully done up like that. And you know, I think he does the humbuckers because they look the best. But a P90 variation would probably be pretty cool. I bet they exist. But hey, how about another art one? This is a Peacock bass. Looks like they're stylizing this after a 52P bass, but it's got like a humbucker type thing in here. They ditched the pick guard to put some nice artwork on it. I always love animal influenced guitars, so this one was all right, but then what's going on up here? Reverse headstock on this? That's interesting. I wonder if there's a reasoning behind that. Because you would think with an art piece like this, you would want the art to do all the talking. Which granted, for somebody who doesn't know guitars, they wouldn't know that the headstock is reversed, but that draws all the attention to it for me. I don't even see the design anymore. I didn't even notice this thing had inlays, but those are nice and aged over and they have another design. And they even went as far as putting the design on the back. Appreciate the dedication. And this one, you don't even have to look at the description over here to know that's a Yuri creation. This is just his signature style. He likes to do the quilty tops, have all the gemstones inlaid, have the gold tracings, and then do an exotic finish. I actually documented one of his that had one of these designs on him. That's a pretty fancy looking one, and it looks like he might have did something crazy with the fretboard here too. I can't quite see it in this photo, but that might be a matching headstock as well. Here's an interesting Stratocaster, Moto pickguard, super quilty top. Everything else is looking about the same, right? But look up here. It's actually the Fender Custom Shop logo on the 12th fret. I dig it. And then you've got your Fender V's right there. Then you swap it over to the back. I mean, that's definitely more of a looker on the front, but that's a bird's eye neck. You're either gonna love that or not. Some bird's eye looks cool, some bird's eye not. Generally, you have to appreciate them in person. But hey, let's take a break from all the crazy quilty and flameness. Look at this. Sure, it probably still has some flame figuring within it, but it's just nice and beautiful walnut top, so much wood grain. It looks good. I'd probably argue that we need like maybe a cream colored pickguard on this one though to really bring out the cream tones of the wood, but this accents the dark parts, so it makes it an evil instrument. And the back has a nice roasted look to it. Reminds me of the Japanese F-hole Telecasters that we reviewed in this episode. They had a similar look to them. Speaking of F-hole Teles, here's a more traditional one, but wow. This thin line Tele has so many pickups. We've got the wide range humbucker, we've got a single coil, and we got a P90 in the bridge. We've got the interesting vibrato and tailpiece as we were talking about on those other guitars. Bunch of fancy switches, and yeah, that's an interesting one. I would like to demo that just to hear how it sounds. I mean, that is all the main pickups right there. And now we've got this Tele style bass. Like, I know there was a Telecaster bass all the way back in the day, but this, I've never seen anything like this from the Fender Custom Shop. So it's like a sky blue quilt top. We've got a jazz bass pickup in the bridge, and then just more of a regular single coil up here. And then you've got the pickguard. It's so strange, but I dig it. It's kind of inventive. And then lastly, we've already talked about this in another episode, but hey, if anybody wants to New Guitar Day one of these, I'll gladly put a pre-order in. I had a few people flirting around with it the last time I put the feeler out, but unfortunately all the pre-orders got taken before anything could happen. But I do have a line on one if somebody is interested. The Stradivarius Violinmaster. Alright Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed checking out these Fender custom shops with me today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.